Amazing. Hello, Alyssa J. Dillon here. Today we are talking a little bit about basically my story and how it pertains to you guys and what I think you could take away from it. Here's the real truth. Here's the problem that I see that a lot of people are in business for far too long, not making any money. And I have a hard time wrapping my head around it, right? And there's some qualities about me that make it so I don't stay stuck very long, right? The grit, tenacity, I don't want to stay stuck. So where is the problem? Where does it lie? What happens? And so that's why I was kind of like inspired to number one, I was inspired to kind of go back on my own and take a look at my own story, like really like dissect it. Like, how did I actually get here? Right? How did I overcome situations that I see people in every single day? Because if I understand my own story and I understand how I got here, it's going to be way easier for me to teach you how I got here. Right? So I did this. I really like dove into the fact, like, where did I get started? What did that look like? I think the first thing to talk about is the fact that I quit my job, right? So this is another thing that happens is we hold on to jobs because they offer security, blah, 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 whatever it is. And ultimately, do they really? That's debatable. But I quit my job. So I had no choice, right? And so there's something fundamental about not having an option but to be successful, right? Not having the option to go backwards. I didn't allow myself to be in a space where I would actually move backwards, where I would get the job. I did have one circumstance where I found myself in a position to say, should I take this job, right? It was working for a really large dental company called One Buffalo Dental. They're still around today. They were doing around $39 million at the time. And they offered me a controller position. And I had worked as a controller many years before that. The job I quit, I was a financial manager or CFO. So the position was really perfect for me. And it was like $70K a year, paid, and all my benefits paid for. And I looked at my husband and I was like, should I take this job? And he basically said, like, no, I think that you could make more money on your own. And I was like, all right. So that was like the nail in the coffin, the day I decided to not do that. Now, if I rewind like a couple weeks before this, I had actually been in a position where I was going to hire my first coach, right? My husband was somebody who doesn't ask for help. Like, he does it all by himself. Like, he takes care of everything. He figures things out. When I'm like, hey, do you want my dad to come help with that? Or do you want my stepdad to do this, or whatever the situation is? It's always like, no, I got it. Right. And he's such a control freak from that space. And so when I was like, I'm going to hire my first coach, he's like, I think you can do it alone. I don't think you need to hire a coach. Right. And I was like, yeah, but I want the results faster. And and so I ended up doing it behind his back, like, actually, which I think a lot of people have a hard time, like, just deciding to have that much conviction in themselves, right? Like, if their husband or spouse doesn't agree, if their partner doesn't agree with something that they want, they kind of just like fall in line. Well, I had that much conviction in the fact that I wanted to get where I was going a lot faster. So I did it behind his back, because initially when I first said I'm going to hire this coach, I was going to rely on him for the funding. I was like, hey, can you like split it with me? Right. And then I'll pay you back. And so he was my funding. But he was like, no, I think you could do it. I don't think you need to hire a coach. I think he basically thought it was a whole scam. Well, oddly enough, now I'm here in the coaching industry. Right. And now I'm the scam to him. I'm not really. Now he understands the industry and understands what it is and sees how many people we help. So it's not a scam anymore. But in the beginning, he's like, what is this? They're going to teach you how to get clients? Like, that seems like a scam. Like, are you sure? Right. And looking back at the coach that I hired, I could see why maybe he thought that. He's a great guy. I have a great relationship with him. But the situation was a little sketch, right? So sketch as in, that's what my kids would say, either sus or sketch. That's the two words. I don't know if you guys have small children. That's what my kids use. They're like, that seems pretty sus, or mom, you're looking a little sketch right now. I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyways, move forward. You guys, I ended up investing. So the reason I tell you this story is because like my beginning also starts with investing in myself, right? It's not like I didn't all of a sudden come up with these great ideas and just come up with everything on my own. I had a coach too, right? I hired my first coach. And so when I hired that first coach, what that looked like was, I want some people to turn on their cameras so I could see their faces. I feel like I'm just talking to names. Corinne, I love you, Corinne. Corinne's got me. Let's turn on some cameras. That'll make me feel a lot better. Like I can read the room, right? It's really hard to read the room when you can't see the room. That's okay. Allie's eating her lunch. Everybody who's logged in here as Alyssa J. Dillon isn't me. It's just my team. You guys should change your names on there so we can see them. I think all you have to do is hit that 3 little buttons. There we go. Oh, look at, there's Michelle. Okay. All right. So yay. I love the faces. It makes me feel so much better. I should have asked in the beginning. I don't care if anyone looks bad. It's fine. You guys, I don't even have a makeup today. That is literally, I'll talk about that next. So my first coach basically gave me this whole idea that I should just message 100 people on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay. And so I tried it, and guess what? Nothing good happened. I had a lot of people asking me for full body pics. They asked me about my feet. They were super curious about my sexuality and some things that I didn't actually offer. Like I was trying to offer bookkeeping and accounting services, not, I don't know. I wasn't looking for a sugar daddy. Let's just put it that way. So it was a really interesting situation. And I was like, well, this isn't really working. So what that did for me though, you guys, is very early on, and hear me loud and clear, because I think so many people, when they hire a coach that gives them the tactic or a template, they're like, well, that didn't work. And then they just allow that to be the mentor's problem or the coach's problem, or the problem becomes external of them. And so they have something to point their finger at and blame. But guess what I did not do? I was like, oh, this is my responsibility. It's my business, right? Radical responsibility is what happened in that scenario. And I can recognize and look back at it now. I didn't know what it was then, but I can look back now and say, I took radical responsibility. I didn't like the strategy, the tactic, the template that I was given. So I came up with my own based on the information he was telling me, right? It was connect with somebody every single day. Connect with new people every day. Okay, I can connect. Where can I connect? Where do I hang out? Oh, I hang out on Facebook. I'll connect with someone every single day. He wanted me to message people. Well, I didn't like that. I didn't want to message people, but the whole world, the whole concept was to get in people's inboxes and to create relationships. So how could I create relationships that felt comfortable to me with content, with going live, right? So I was replicating this process of bring more people into your world every day, create more connections every day, talk to more people every day. And so then when I got actually really great results, he's like, how did you do that? Are you following my strategy? I was like, no, I didn't like it. It was weird. I didn't want to message people. And he said, well, how did you do it? And so I told him like, well, I took what you told me to do and I dissected what you were actually asking me to do from a principle perspective. Like, what's the principles that we're looking at? Not the tactic, not the template, but from the principles, what are you asking me to do? You asked me to connect to people every day. So I found a platform where I like to connect with people, right? I found a place that it was easy for me to talk to people. I found a place where I liked putting content out, and that happened to be Facebook. And so I grew my business start to finish using Facebook, right? And I think it's important that I tell you that much of my strategy, although it lied in Facebook, it was not a one size fits all situation. It's not the only thing I did. And so I just talked about this on my mastermind call, and so some of you that just came from my mastermind call are going to hear this again, but we reiterate a lot of things in marketing, right? We reiterate, pick one person to market to, right? Have a target audience. What is that person like? What does that person do? How do they self-identify? What kind of goals do they want, right? What are they scared of? What are their hopes? What are their dreams? What are their fears? What keeps them awake at night? We ask you these questions as marketers because we want you to understand who you need to be talking to. And then we ask you to focus on one result, right? Focus on one result, one result, one result, one result. And if any of you are newer to my space, you wouldn't hear me say this, but most of you, I believe, have been around me for a little bit. That one result that we ask you to focus on needs to be in health, wealth, or relationships. Health, wealth, or relationships. You don't pick two. You don't pick all three. You don't get to skate around one, right? You go all in on it. Because why do people spend money? To make more money or have more wealth, to be healthier, not die, right? To take care of themselves. Number 3, to fall in love, to have love, whether that's a relationship with a partner, a spouse. Michelle's my love guru, or their kids, right? Or maybe it's their parent, right? Maybe they've had a terrible relationship with their mom their entire life, and it's ruining everything about their lives. So I always say health, wealth, or relationships. One of these is easier than the others. Which one do you guys think it is? It's obviously wealth, because it's logical, right? Like, it's the most logical thing to sell. When you sell to somebody, if you pay me $1,000 and I'll help you duplicate or 5x or 10x your money, we can see it. It's very clear. Like, I give you $1, you give me 5. Perfect. I love this, right? It's a very easy formula. It doesn't work as well in relationships. It doesn't work as well in health, which is why many of you who are sitting on here, if you are in the wealth space, pay money to make more money, you got it going on. You're in a really great space to be in. And truthfully, that's most of the people I work with, right? Most of my clients are in biz op or the financial space. That's what I'm good at. That's what I know, because that's what I've done for years. So we tell you one person, right? To go backwards, we tell you focus on one person. We tell you focus on one result, and then there's one offer. Focus on just one offer. You don't need to have 5,000 offers. It is completely unnecessary at this point in your business, unless you're in a place where you're doing over 6 figures a month. Is there anyone on this call that's doing over 6 figures per month? If so, put it in the comments, because that's a separate conversation. But for most of you who are not quite at a place where you're not doing 6 figures per month, guess what? You can make 6 figures per month with just one offer. The reason to create a value ladder and have multiple offers is to drive people in to the one offer. But if you don't have that one high ticket offer down right now, don't worry about all the little offers yet, right? Don't worry about that stuff yet. Get this down. If you haven't sold it to 10, 20 people, all of the other stuff is just noise. It's just going to take you off track, because you're going to try to figure out, like, well, what should this little ticket thing be? And what should this thing be over here? And if I want to sell this little course over here, and then I have this over here, it's just a distraction. It's just going to distract you from getting the results you need to get. And so this is a really important piece of how I grew my business so fast. Is I had one person. I always focused on one person. And did that person change? Yes, it did. Right? It changed when I needed it to. It changed when it was important for me. So I didn't always focus on the one person the entire time I was growing my business, but I did focus on the one person when I figured out who it was. How did I figure out who it was? Research, talking to people, right? Building and developing actual relationships. And we got away from this. We live in this world right now where, and I'm really fortunate that I started my business 2017, 2018, because COVID hadn't hit and the world wasn't online, right? We still had the fundamental skills of actually going out and meeting people and building relationships, where a lot of us have gotten away from that, right? We're just like, how do I just build my business online? How do I just build it online, right? And as much as building my business online, I really have leaned into that. And it's really been a big, huge part of my growth. Like I have an online company. Part of the reason I got started was from the relationships I built in my community, right? So one person, one result, one offer. This leads me into, and I just touched on it a little bit, is I didn't just do one thing to grow my business, right? Why? Why didn't I just do one thing to grow my business? The biggest reason of all is because I didn't want to put all of my eggs in the one basket. And if the one basket falls over and breaks, then guess what? I'm screwed, right? And so I did multiple things every single day, right? I focused on getting to meetings. I participated in my niche. I talked to different people whenever possible. I reached out to my clients and said, do you have referrals? I reached out to my clients who had CPAs and I was like, hey, can you make an introduction to your CPA? I looked for opportunities to be interviewed. Funny story, one of the first podcast I was ever on was Mike Michalowicz's podcast, Grow My Accounting Practice. Guess how ridiculous that made the rest of my life. I thought every podcast was going to be really easy to get on because I got on Mike Michalowicz, who was like my idol at the time. I was like, this guy's brilliant. He's genius. I read every single one of his books. And then I emailed them and I said, hey, can I get on your podcast? And they're like, yeah. Right. And so then when I tried to get on other podcasts as influential and as famous, as affluent, and they were like, no response. I was like, what's going on? It was so easy for me to get on Mike Michalowicz's podcast, right? I've tried to get on Mike Michalowicz's podcast again, not quite as easy. So I don't know. I just had some dumb luck apparently, but it doesn't mean not try. And of course we do try, right? So I found spaces where I could show up as the expert in different areas. I got on podcasts. Now I get on stages, right? I just applied to be a speaker at QuickBooks Connect. Why? Not for fun. Not just because I want to fly all over the country and speak on stages. I do really love that, but also I want to participate in my niche, right? I want to participate with the people that I can help. I want to be in the same rooms as them. So, and here I want to say another thing. A lot of people have relied heavily on like one source of traffic, one source of lead flow. And the people who rely heavily on that one source of lead flow, that one source of traffic, and then when things go amiss or go awry, guess what? Their business is dependent on that one thing. We saw it the last 2 years with Facebook. Facebook was up. It's great. Facebook is down. And what do I mean by up and down? I mean, it's heavily political. Everybody hates each other, right? Or it's down, or it's up, meaning like our traffic is good. People are actually engaged. They're paying attention to the stuff about business. Where sometimes it's down and it's highly political. People are complaining. Our stuff isn't really getting seen. The algorithm changed again, right? And what happens when that happens? Number one, you just keep going, right? That's the first thing. You just keep going. You just keep doing it, right? So many people will be like, oh, this isn't working anymore. So they stop. I talked to a girl recently, you guys, and she was like, oh, I asked her, when was your, write these questions down. When was your business the most successful? So first thing I asked her, when was your business the most successful? And she said, probably late 2019. I was like, okay, that was a good time to be online. That was a good time to be growing a business. Like, I had a lot of success in late 2019, right? I said, what were you doing at that time? She said, I was posting every single day on Facebook and Instagram. I said, that's all you were doing? Yeah, that's all I was doing. Okay. And what's changed since then? Right? What have you been doing since then? What's changed? And she's like, well, in 2020, Facebook stopped working as well. So we don't do it anymore. And I was like, have your sales ever been as good since when you stopped doing that since 2019? Have you ever tried to replicate what you did in 2019 to today? No, I haven't, because in 2020, it stopped working. I said, so you stopped marketing your business, decided not to come up with another solution at all. And you actually believed, like, I'm not trying to sound like a condescending asshole right now, but you believed that you would get the same amount of sales. And she's like, well, now that you say it back to me, seems kind of ridiculous, huh? And I was like, yeah, right. And here's the thing, you guys, I've been there, right? I've been there. It's like, man, we haven't really been getting a lot of sales. Oh, we haven't been really doing a lot of marketing. So there is a direct correlation with marketing to the amount of sales you will get, right? If you're not doing the marketing, any at all, you will not get the same amount of sales that you got when you were doing the marketing every single day, when you were consistent. So yes, things are going to change. Algorithms are going to change. But here's the deal with all of it is we're not at liberty to have control over the platforms that we post to. We're not at liberty to have control over how they censor us, how we are able to post and what gets out there and what gets completely shadow banned, whatever the situation is. Like that's not in our control. But what I will say is be consistent anyways, right? You be consistent anyways, you show up anyways, because you don't know when the algorithm might be in your favor and somebody comes back around and they check out your first post they ever see of yours. And so now they want to scroll back and binge all your content. And if you haven't been posting for 6 months, guess what? I wonder if Michelle's out of business, right? That's what I think. When I come across a business owner who is not consistent in their social media presence, I wonder if they're out of business, right? Wouldn't you guys think the same? You look up somebody's like, oh, you should definitely hire Jeff, the marketer, Jeff, the fitness trainer. Jeff is my fitness trainer. We have Jeff on here today too. The different Jeff. The Jeff on here is not my fitness trainer, unless he is, and I don't know. So Jeff, my fitness trainer, if somebody's like, you should go hire Jeff, the fitness trainer, because he's really going to be able to help you. And I go see that Jeff used to be pretty consistent. I was about to leave if I was Jeff. He used to be pretty consistent, but now he's not consistent. I wonder if he's accepting more clients, right? Don't you guys have the same thought process? And for those of you who don't have your cameras on, if you want to turn them on and engage with me and like shake your heads and stuff, that's cool too. Like it makes a lot more fun, right? I'm like waiting for anybody. Nobody's going to be the first. There we go. Ella. Ella's a copywriter. We got Dolores, Melissa. Melissa's a CPA. Dolores is in the accounting space as well. Bookkeeper, accountant, CPA, enrolled agent.
CPA.
You're also a CPA? Nice.
Yes.
All right. I like it. Okay. So what was I talking about? I got off on a Jeff tangent. We were talking about Jeff too much. So anyways, be consistent. And here's the thing, you get consistent at that one thing. And that's what I did, you guys. I got consistent. So if we go back to like how I got my start, right? I was consistent on social media. I was doing like a live. The lives were so bad. They were absolutely terrible. They're embarrassing to watch. They're very hard for me to watch. I won't view them at all. But if you scroll all the way back to my 2017, 2018 stuff, you'll be embarrassed for me also, right? So I had a much quieter voice. I was much more terrified of anything. So I was consistent online, but that wasn't the only thing I was doing. And this is what I think is so important. So many people are just like, well, I was doing the one thing. Do more than that, right? Participate in your niche. Do more things than that. Get involved in the people that you want to work with. And if you don't know the people you want to work with, well, you got to figure that shit out, right? You got to figure it out. So often I hear, especially in the financial niche, well, I don't want to limit myself. Who said that? Who is saying that right now? I don't want to limit myself. It cracks me up because I'm like, well, you're limiting yourself, all right, with the amount of money you're making right now, because that's what I'm seeing, right? And so if we're trying one thing consistently and it's not working, I don't want to limit myself. I don't want to cut myself off by saying I only work with these people. You're also opening yourself up to talk to nobody, right? You're opening the doors for no one to hear you. And so a lot of people ask me then, well, Alyssa, how did you do what you do? Because you don't just work with financial professionals. It's like, no, I don't. I have other people in my audience, but guess what I do? I target the hell out of financial professionals. And if somebody else comes along and knocks on my door, it's not like I won't take them on as a client. But in my targeting efforts, how many of you are bookkeepers, accountants, financial professionals? Who's not? Actually, it's better to say who's not. Michelle. Is that it? Michelle, Ella is a coach in my program. All right. So I'm going to go with the fact because no one else spoke up. Everyone else is in the financial professional space, right? Everyone else. Do you think it's a coincidence that you're all on this call? No, it's not. I target the hell out of you guys. I run ads to financial professionals, right? I send friend requests to financial professionals. You are the people I target because my story resonates with you, does it not? Right? I am the niche. That's who I am. I am a financial professional who was quit her job because I wanted to be with my kids, and I started a business as a financial professional. I made a lot of money, and so I utilized that story now in my coaching business, right? And so what's your story? Who are you? And who is your story going to resonate with most? A lot of times we pick these niches or we pick this person that we want to work with or talk to because it sounds like a good idea, right? No, I decided to pick these people because I think they have a lot of money. I think they have money. I don't know. Have you ever talked to them? No. Do you know if they need your services? No, right? So how do you start that? You talk to them, you guys. Talk to these people. And so I've told this story like 8,000 times recently, but I'm going to say it again. When I first got started in my, poor Corinne's probably heard the story like 42 times at this point. Thanks, Corinne, for being so supportive, even though I keep telling the same stories over and over again. But these people haven't heard the story yet. So when I first got started in my bookkeeping business, I knew exactly who I was going to work with. I had a niche nailed down. I had spent 7 years in the tree removal industry, 7 years. I was a financial guru in this space. I knew what kind of chemicals they use. I knew about their bucket trucks. I know how much to charge to remove a tree, right? I worked for the largest tree removal company, second largest. Lewis Tree Service is the company I worked for. Second to Ashland. Ashland is the number one. And then there's Lewis Tree Service. And then there's Davy. And if you need to know any more information about the tree removal service, I can tell you everything about it, right? So I knew everything about this industry. I knew how to create spreadsheets for my crews. I knew how to track their labor. I understand the ratios of like labor to revenue. Like this was my space. Like I could help anyone here, right? And so I knew for a fact that it would be so easy for me to get those people as clients. And so what I started doing is I started reaching out to them online, and I would have these conversations and I'd be like, hey, so-and-so, I see that you own a tree company. Just a heads up, I know all about your industry. Like I've had 7 years. I was an accountant for Lewis Tree Service. And then when they hear that, they're like, oh shit, right? Because they know Lewis Tree Service. If you're in the tree industry, you know this company. And I'd be like, could you use my help? And they're like, yeah, tell me all the trade secrets, right? And it's like, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. And guess what? Their cash flow was terrible. None of them could pay me, right? And this wasn't a problem around messaging, because I could potentially say like, well, maybe I had a messaging problem, but I didn't, because the reality is I knew that these people could definitely use my help. I was telling them I could help them make more money, but they're like, yeah, well, I have $300 in my bank account. And I was like, okay, right? Like, that's not going to work. We're not going to be able to do anything here. So I found that the people that were readily, like easily accessible online in the tree removal service, I found that they had terrible cash flow, especially in New York, because you're only removing trees like 4 months out of the year, right? Like, that's it. We got snow on the ground, and we're not removing trees and climbing trees during snow. So you only have 3 to 4 months to actually remove a tree in New York State. So that was my first problem, right? I was focused on New York State. But what I also found is the companies that were larger, that were doing multi-six figures, that were doing 7 figures, they had a corporate building. They had a headquarters, and their staff, their back-end staff worked there. And so they wanted people internal, right? And so there was no good mix of like, well, I want to do this virtually. I don't want to come work in your office. And so I found that this niche was actually not going to work for me, right? But I wouldn't have had that information without actually talking to those people. And that's what I'm trying to reiterate right now, right? Find your people and start having conversations with them. And if you don't know where they are to have those conversations, that's the first piece that you have to figure out, you guys. Where are my people hanging out, right? Where are they? Ask them. If you have current clients in the specific niche that you're thinking about going all in on, ask them, where do you hang out? What do you do? What do you like? Are you on Facebook? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Instagram? Right? Where are they the most saturated? Do they go to trade shows? Right? In my opinion, the business owners that I see that are most successful are the ones who are most likely to participate, right? I use Andrew Hunsicker as an example all the time. Andrew Hunsicker, most of you in the financial space probably know who he is, right? He happens to be my friend. He has the company Dope CFO. His clients are very successful. He has a lot of very successful clients. Why do we think that is? Do you think he has a better marketing strategy than me? I could laugh at this because I know he doesn't. And he's my friend, so he wouldn't mind me saying that because he's asked me to help him with marketing, right? Andrew doesn't have a better marketing strategy than me. What he has is a bunch of accountants that are only focused on participating with one single person. That is the difference, right? They focus on the cannabis industry. That's the whole deal. Like, hey, you come join this program, and guess what? You're going to learn everything there is about the cannabis industry. And then you're only going to talk to people in the cannabis industry. And guess what? They get clients, right? He has a great success rate. And so I'm not saying, oh, all of you go join Dope CFO and hire Andrew, right? Unless that's like your passion and you're like, no, I really love cannabis. That's my thing. Then do that, right? My point is, he's gotten really good at telling his people to participate in one single space. And so they're talking to one single person and have been able to get clients a lot faster that way versus talking to no one, right? So using these ideas and using these strategies to like wrap this up, I took all of this information, right? I figured out that as I was growing my accounting business, I was focused, right? And that is what created so much success. It wasn't because I was smarter than people. It wasn't because I had more experience. It was just because, honestly, I had more balls than most people. And I was focused on, that's a true story. Somebody asked me a long time ago, why couldn't somebody just do exactly like, why couldn't somebody steal your entire company and like do exactly what you're doing? And I'm like, because they don't have as big of balls as me. Like, that's it. Like, that's, most people aren't willing to take these steps. You all are, right? You're all on this call because you guys want to do whatever it takes to grow your business and take it to the next level. So I used all of those lessons. To grow my coaching business, right? I focused on one person. I'm 80%, my entire career as a coach, 80% of my people have been in the financial space, 80% of them, right? It's definitely an 80-20 rule here. I tell my story consistently. My story resonates. I speak to the problems I know that people in the financial space are having because I know them, because I was them, right? And it's okay if you don't have a story that necessarily fits, but how can you use your own life experiences to resonate and build emotional connections with the people that you're trying to attract? Because that's what it comes down to, right? Most of you here are because you've connected with me on an emotional level. It's not because you think I'm probably like the best at marketing. Maybe you do think that, but most of you are here because you've connected with me emotionally. You like the fact that I curse. You like the fact that I show up with my hair crazily, right? Maybe some of you didn't know I cursed and you're like, wait, this girl curses. And you'll never come back to a call again. And that's okay, right? That's all right. I'm not totally here to polarize you, but I'm also just going to be all of who I am. Some of you have resonated with the fact that I share pictures of my kids. I share my personal stories in my marketing, right? Lessons I've learned. That's why most of you are here. So, was this helpful? Did anyone learn anything? I hope so. That's the whole reason I do this, is to make sure somebody learned something. And if no one learned anything, man, I would feel like I'd probably cry the rest of the day. I would. I'd feel like, oh my God. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Anything specific, on topic, off topic? We could open up for Q&A. And I have to take a drink of water. Can we also just talk about for 5 seconds that this shirt with this bra is just not it? It's not it. Like, I might as well just be like this the rest of the day. Like, this is just not, it's not it. Jeff understands. Jeff knows my problems. Whoever Jeff is going to hate me at the end of this call. He's like, I'm never coming back. Jeff says he gets it. He gets it. No questions? Come on, you guys have to have something. Give me a scenario. Somebody give me a hard situation they're in. Let me coach you.
How do you
We
find
can't hear you.
podcasts and things to be a guest on?
What was that?
How do you find podcasts to guests on and get set up with that?
Okay. So I would say the first place to start, I know it's going to seem really ridiculous. Google like podcasts for fitness businesses, right? Are you going to lean in? You're going to try to start leaning into the fitness industry, right?
Yep.
Oh, this is good. This is good. How do you capitalize? So first I would start with Google. The other thing I would do is actually just go on any podcast platform that you're normally on and look for them, right? From there, you go to the website and then you try to connect with these people via email, messenger, right? I used to message Amy Porterfield like every month to ask her to be on her podcast. She never responded to me, but whatever. Her loss, right? It's fine. Uh, so whoever is like doing the podcast, focus on connecting with that person or with that business, whether it's emailing, right? And make sure that you're very specific. So really quick, I like unique compliment first, always. If you're ever cold messaging anyone, always start with a compliment that is specifically related to what you're paying attention to. So if I am going to message a podcast owner and say, I want to be on your podcast, the first thing I'm going to say is like, I loved episode 62 where you talked about blah, blah, blah. Like, I am going to make sure that they know that I'm not just sending basically a spam email to every single podcast owner there ever was, right? I want them to realize that like, I really want to be on their specific podcast. So that's number one. Number two, I would 100% talk about what I would like to speak on. Like, give them an idea, right? Like, I would love to share with your audience, blah, 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 specific result. Then I would give them proof. Using these same strategies that I would share, I helped so-and-so get these results. I helped my client, Corinne, get on a podcast. I don't know. Right? So I would also share some proof. And it's like, thanks so much for hearing back. I might include like, here's my website. Here's another podcast episode I did. Here's a video of me on stage recently. Like anything I had that's like, no, I'm important. Like I promise I'm important. I'm awesome. Check me out. Right? That's what I would do. Sorry, I keep coughing. Okay. Does that help? Good stuff. I target construction companies for accounting services and the Facebook groups suck. You don't use the Facebook groups for contractors. That is like how to be in the shittiest Facebook groups ever. Because here's the deal. Construction workers do not actually hang out in these Facebook groups unless they're like, I don't know what they're doing over there, right? I don't know what they're doing, if they're doing anything, but they're not really good at socializing in Facebook groups. So what I would tell you to do is start local, right? So go into a local Facebook group and say like, hey, I'm looking for a contractor who does concrete work. Hey, I'm looking for somebody who does paving. I know your local companies. Start freaking hanging out with them, right? So the way I did this is I'd be like, hey, does anyone know any plumbers in the area? And so then they would tag all their plumber friends. And guess what I did? I sent those people friend requests. And then because I was so consistent in my marketing efforts, they would see it. And then I'd make a list of these people in a book, right? I would take a notebook. I'd make a list in my notebook of all the people that I sent a friend request to, or the people who would accept them. And then I would make a point to go engage on their stuff, right? And some of the better business owners were actually like, they would make posts too. And I'd be like, oh, this is so awesome, right? And so years after I was doing this, I would still get contractors like plumbers that would reach out to me for services. They'd be like, hey, can you help me with my accounting? And I'm like, no, I left that game, right? So I'd have to refer them out. But start local, like, and my strategy was like, all right, I'm in Buffalo, right? So I would be like, all right, I'm going to start in Buffalo. And then I'm going to look in Rochester. And then I'm going to look in Syracuse. And then I'm going to look in Niagara County. And then I'm going to look lower than that, which is where Allie's from. And there's just mostly cows. So there's not a lot of things happening. More cows than people. Does that make sense? Yes. So that is why Jeff, to let you know, most of my clients were contractors. I had land surveillance companies. We had a plumber. We had a concrete company. I'm trying to think. I know there was other ones. I just can't think of them all right now. That was like the beginning of like, I figured out this. And then the next thing that I focused on, people I really, really liked were, thank you, Ella, for joining us. The other people that I really liked were holistic health. So I ended up getting like a lot of holistic health, like people. And that's when I made a pivot because I just liked that industry and I figured I would try to get into it. So I had like holistic health pediatrician, Dr. Sue. I had a weight loss company, a chiropractor, because then I tried to work on getting into the health niche. So I had a good mix of the two. All right. I hope all of this was helpful for everybody. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. Oh, never mind. All right. Anybody else got anything else before I jump off? I have to go pee because the call I do next after this, I pee during every single time. I'm like, I gotta be right back. So I'm going to do that first before I go to the next call. That call's with Michelle, right? My next call is with you, Michelle. Yeah. So, all right, friends, I'm going to go use the potty and, I'll be back next Wednesday. I'll see you guys. I hope this was super helpful. Hope you guys love this. Hey, do me a favor. If this was helpful, if you love this, if you got value out of it, please, please, please do me a huge favor. Go online, let your friends know, let everyone know. You got to show up for Alyssa's marketing meeting calls, that they're awesome. She gives a bunch of value. And if you're not on them, you suck, right? So use those exact words. I'll write a script. If you aren't on them, you suck. No, don't. You don't have to say that in your own language. But if you had a lot of value, please share them. I'm going to keep doing these as long as they are growing, as long as they seem to be working, and they won't grow unless you guys help me do that. So, love you guys. Talk to you later.